Hello, everybody, and thank you for attending today's webinar. My name is Stephen Malachowski, and I'm the Regional Sales Manager here at McCormick Systems. And today we'll be exploring Foundation's electrical estimating software. And as a reminder, everyone will be on mute, and we'll give you the opportunity to ask questions in the end in the chat box. So let's get started. Now I want to introduce you to Foundation's family of products. We have Foundation software, job cost accounting software. We have HQ Suite, project, crew, and safety program management. We have payroll for construction, a payroll service just for construction. We have Estimating Edge, that's for estimating software for roofing, fireproofing, interior walls and ceilings, and interior exterior finishes. And then WorkMax, best in class mobile time tracking. And then, of course, McCormick Systems, what we'll be talking about today. That is our estimating software for electrical, mechanical, and plumbing contractors. And today, what we're going to cover is our all in one estimating software from PDF to proposal with our simple 1 through 5 step process. I'm going to go over our auto count feature, our auto home run feature, and some of these automated features that are really going to speed up the estimating process. Once we log into the program, here's where we arrive. This is what we call the job screen. Here, you're either doing one of two things. You're either opening up an existing job to finalize it, pull reports from it, or maybe you've been awarded this job and you're coming back in here to handle a change order. Otherwise, we're over here and we're going to be creating a new job. So very simple. Open up an existing job or we're creating a new one. So for today's demonstration purposes, I'm just going to go ahead and utilize one of these jobs we have here in process. So hitting the details on that, I want to show this is where we're going to go ahead and attach our plans by clicking on DEP drawing. So it's very simple to attach your plans to the job. You can go straight up here to add drawings, which accesses your computer file explorer, and you could drag multiple files in, even if that file has 50 to 100 plans in it. Very simply, I'll click open, and that brings me to a preview mode. And from here, I can select specific plans I want to import into this job, or I can go ahead and just import all. So I'll just go ahead and import all of these. And now I have all of these plans tied to my job. From here, I can close out, and that will wrap up our first step. You're either creating a job, opening an existing job, and attaching your plans. So like I mentioned, a very simple 1 through 5 step process to create a bid in McCormick. That wraps up our first step, create the job, attach the plans. Now we're into our second step, labels. So in labels, you're organizing where you put your takeoff. So this is one specific example for this job. This is the breakdown of the job. All you're doing is working from left to right, from big to small. So you don't have to utilize all 5 columns if you don't want to. Maybe you just go from your bid package into your areas and then into your systems. So this is for you to set up as detailed as you'd like to break down your job, because this is a very basic step, however, very important, because this will all translate into the reporting side in the extension report. So now that we've created these labels, we can go ahead, close out of that. That wraps up our first and second step. And now we're into our third step, takeoff. So ideally, you would come straight into Design Estimating Pro, you would pull up your plan and you would start doing all your takeoff digitally. However, I do want to go over the information here on this screen. We have our database with an items and assemblies database, and that's just a toggle from your items to your assemblies. And then very simply, you can find the material utilizing the menu. The menu is what drives our database. So just again, working from left to right and just 3 or 4 clicks, you can find that material very easily. So let's go ahead. Let's select an assembly. And you can see I actually have a different menu now that I'm on the assemblies database. So let's go ahead and select devices. We'll go with standard grade, and then let's select our receptacles. And now you can see that's where it took me to here in my database. So now I'm going to go ahead and select a duplex standard. And before we jump into the digital takeoff portion of the program, I want to hit byproducts just to show you everything inside of this assembly. So McCormick provides you a full pre-built database. So how you're looking at the system is how you will be provided the system. So you could see everything from a receptacle, box, plate, box support, ground screw, mud ring. This is all pre-built for you. And in McCormick, it's very customizable. So you can come in here. I could delete material from the assembly. I could swap out different sizes of material or items in this assembly, or I can add to this assembly. So very easily on McCormick, you can make adjustments to these assemblies. You can make your own assemblies, or you can even add to the database and name the assembly and add the material in. So in McCormick, it's very customizable, and you could really tailor the system to fit your needs. So now let's go ahead and jump into Design Estimating Pro. So this is our built-in digital takeoff system. So this is why we are an all-in-one solution. We give you the digital takeoff and the estimating portion of the program, and it's built into one system. So it's all streamlined for you from your PDF plan to your proposal. So now first step is we're going to go ahead and select our sheets. So we'll just go ahead and select one of these power plans here for an example. Now, I want to mention zooming in and zooming out, it's just a scroll wheel on my mouse. And then panning around is clicking that scroll wheel down. So it's all mouse control. It's very easy to utilize. And ideally, you would have two monitors because you'd have Design Estimating Pro on one screen with your database and audit trail on the other. I do recommend that. However, it's not required. It's very easy to minimize and just reopen. So I'll start with just a basic count. So I'm going to go ahead and select some material out of my database. We'll go ahead and we'll grab this duplex 20 amp standard. And now since this is highlighted, that will be shown as my active part here in the bottom left corner in Design Estimating Pro. So now I'm just going to show you some basic counting. First, okay, before you start doing your takeoffs, you do have to set a scale. So it's prompting me to set a scale. I cannot do anything until that scale is set. So we have three different options. You can hand enter a custom scale. You can set one from a known point off of your plan. Or if you know that scale, you can go ahead and plug it in. The scale of this plan is a 1/8 equals a foot. So now my scale is set. I'm ready to do my takeoff digitally. So we'll go ahead and start with basic counting. And that's just a left click on each one of these duplexes. And this is a very simple way to utilize the system. This is just basic counting. And with each click, it's providing me everything in the assembly, the price of the material, plus all the labor hours to install. And this is being estimated as I mark my plan right now because it is one system. So we could see in the bottom left corner, I've taken off 25 of those 20 amp duplexes. And if I go look into my audit trail right now, here it is, automatically estimated from my plan into my audit trail. Now it's showing me the part taken off, the quantity, the user, date and timestamp, and then how it was taken off. So this P, that stands for Pro, and there's the drawing that it's on. So we know this was done digitally. And that's basic counting. Now I want to show you a quick example of basic measurement, basic linear takeoff. So now we're going to go into our database. We'll go branch, let's say EMT, steel set screw to a 1-hole strap, and then we'll select our number 12. And that's going to bring me to all my number 12 branch assemblies. So we'll go ahead, we'll just select a 3 number 12 1/2-inch EMT steel set screw to a 1-hole strap. And here's everything inside of this assembly. We're providing you the 3 number 12 wires. You're getting couplings every 10 feet, screws, washers, conduit, connectors. So very detailed. And this is built in with price and labor. So now that I have this assembly selected, I'm going to show you just some basic takeoff up in this top room. So you do have two different line settings. You have single line setting and connected. We are currently on connected, so that's going to be a click to start. It's a click to change the direction. Click, click, and then it's a double click to end the run. Very simple to utilize. And there is a lot of customization within the program. So I can hit my space bar. That just toggles me over to select. And I can come in here. I can change the shape style. Very helpful for the design build side. We do have the design build aspect to the program. So I can make it look more like a duplex. Maybe I want to change the color, make it darker, change the opacity, do a text overlay, and then you can do it for this sheet, all the sheets for this job, or the entire database moving forward. So it gives you full control. And then same thing on my branch. I can go in here, double click on it, change the shape, style, color. We have a default drop set to 8 feet, which I could talk about in just a moment. And then I want to show you the text overlay over the top because I am a big fan of this when it comes to my conduit runs. And it is telling me it's a 74.73 foot run. Now I'm going to go ahead and make that adjustment, and then over the top I can clearly see what I ran there. So that is very helpful at a quick glimpse of your plan. Hey, what conduit did I run to that panel? And that's a basic function of McCormick. That's counting and measuring. So now I really want to show you our automated features that are really going to speed up that estimating process because McCormick does provide the most automated features on the market. So let's go ahead. I'm going to flip to a fresh plan here. Got to set that scale first. Can't do anything till that scale is set. We have a scale of 1/8 equals a foot. And so I could go through this plan and left click on each one of these outlets to do my takeoffs. But instead, I'd rather the system do it for me. So I'm going to go to the top to auto count. And I'm going to tell the system where to search. This is helpful so I don't pick up my legend or anything else. And maybe I want to just search a specific area of the plan. So now what it's doing is prompting me to define that criteria. So what I'll do is zoom in on the symbol I'd like to search and just put a small box around that symbol. And that's going to show me up top of that symbol I'm looking to search. And then all I'm going to do is go ahead and hit add search. And it actually has a built-in calibration, so it'll calibrate for best possible results. All right, let's take a look. So what I typically do is check all, and then I go through to see if it picked up anything I don't want. It's from highest match rate down to your lowest. Looks like it got some of those ones down here at the bottom we don't want. No big deal. It's very easy to proofread this. All you do, right click, uncheck those items below. Very simple. So now I could actually left click on each one of these and it'll show me where it is on my plan and put a small red box. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and grab my telephone outlet out of my favorites list. Now, I do want to mention this is permanent from job to job, and you can have multiple lists, one for maybe commercial, one for industrial, one for residential, and you load up all the material you typically use for jobs inside of this list, which obviously we can help you do throughout your training process. So I just want to show you how easy it is to access the materials utilizing this feature. So I'm going to grab my telephone outlet that is shown as my active part. And now I'm going to go ahead and hit accept takeoff. Now check that out. Automatically counted and took off all those telephone outlets for me. So always want to go through, check your work, make sure, and guess what? It got them all. So it is doing an excellent job. And I'm going to go ahead and turn on my legend up at the top here. This is basically a live audit trail on screen as I do my takeoff. So it does open to the top left corner, but I can minimize it down and make it smaller and put it to wherever I want on the plan. But now I'm getting live counts and measurements on screen as I do my takeoffs. So that is our auto count feature. Now I want to show you auto home runs. So we're going to go ahead and go to the top here to this EP marker. That stands for endpoint. And I'm going to go ahead and create an endpoint right here. And I can name this. I could have multiple endpoints. So I'm going to say this is panel A. And then from here, I don't necessarily have to create a routing path, but it does look like I have some obstacles and some hallways. So just below that EP marker, this symbol here is our routing path. So I'm going to create a pathway up this hallway as an example, and then over to my panel. And then I could name this as well. I could have multiple routing paths. So I'm going to say this is path 1. Now I'm going to go ahead and select the material or the linear takeoff I want to use, what conduit I'm using. We could go back to that same 3 number 12 1/2-inch EMT steel set screw to a 1-hole strap. This hot list here is anything I've taken off digitally on my plan. I can come back over here and just reactivate those parts. So it makes it very easy and convenient. So In McCormick, all you're doing is counting and measuring. Regardless of the material I select today, that's all we're doing. So now that I have my conduit selected, I'm going to go ahead up to this pencil and a plus sign, and that's going to give me a few different options. So I can do this pathway direct. I could do it orthogonal, which is squared off and most commonly used. And like I said, I don't have to use a pathway, but I did create pathway 1 to go to panel A. So let me show you a basic function of this feature where I could just come here, left click. It'll take the shortest path to the routing path all the way to the panel automatically for me with just a left click. So you could see how that could really speed up your process. Those 4 clicks or 5 clicks I just did, that just gave me 324 feet of this conduit with 5 different runs there. That's what that was. So, that's a basic function to utilize that feature. What I could do is hit my space bar, which brings me to select, and I could just put a box around all of that takeoff that I want to run to that panel, right click, and add an orthogonal home run to panel A utilizing pathway 1. Check that out. Automatically ran all of those telephone outlets right to panel A. So now we've gone ahead and we did 52 telephone outlets, 35 different conduit runs at a total of 3,448 feet in less than 5 minutes, maybe. So you could really see how some of these automated features will really speed up your estimating process. And it's going to create accuracy. You're going to be competitive in the field, and you're going to be able to take on bigger bids and also more bids. So it's also a solution to grow the business. At this point, we could do all of our takeoffs. This has a lot of different features involved into the software, bells and whistles. We can add drop values in if you need to, notes, text boxes, arrows. You can bring in, pictures of the site if you want to, or if somebody wrote something up on a napkin or notes, you can totally bring that into this to the software if you need to. So this thing is fully loaded. We've been doing this 45 years in the industry, and we've really thought of it all. So at this point, we've done all our takeoffs. We can close out a Design Estimating Pro. We could see here everything being tracked in our audit trail in order of when we did it, date and time stamped with the user provided. Now, I could also summarize all of this if I wanted to quickly see all of my totals. So I can see I have a total of 3,523 feet, 52 telephone outlets, and 25 20 amp duplexes. So really fast and efficient, and it streamlines your process being all in one. Now, at this point, we can go straight into the 4th step, which extends everything out. So a very detailed report we provide. First, I want to mention in the top right corner, here's the total and material cost for the job, and here's the total labor hours to install. Now, looking through this report, we give you a full itemized list. This is everything down to wires, nuts, screws, washers. This is all of our items. The next column are the quantity of that material. And then as a set default report on my system, I have price 1, which is our most competitive pricing, and then bid labor. That's our McCormick issued labor, which is very accurate. Everyone's always very impressed with the labor built into the system because it's not just installation time, it's taking it off the truck, getting it to the site, and the installation. So everyone loves the labor that's built into the program. Now, I want to mention here is a drop down where you can choose from all the different combinations of price and labor. There's 4 different levels of material pricing in the system, and then there's 6 different labor levels. So here are the different combinations of pricing and labor provided. You can also get a material list. You can also get an assembly list if needed, and you could also pull in directly from your supplier if you need to, utilizing a pricing service. Or if you get a pricing file from your supplier, you can import that into the database. So we give you a few different options. Now, at this point, you can look at this report in many different ways due to the labels you created in that 2nd step. So I can go into my labels tab, and now I have full control of this report. Whether I want to separate out my levels, I want to separate out my systems, or I specifically just want to see a report for, let's say, floor 1 power. And now all I'm looking at is floor 1 power. So everyone loves the reporting side of McCormick, where you can drill down as detailed as you want to, do the labels you created in that 2nd step. So now we'll just go back to that full report. I want to mention we have cost codes built into the system as well. So I could collapse everything down by cost codes. And now you could see, because I do have all my floors separated right now and my system. So that's why it's showing all this detail. So if I wanted to, I could look into floor one power, see all my branch rough, total material cost, labor hours to install, and then expand that out and see everything included in my branch rough. So there are so many different ways you can look at these reports, very detailed and tailored to how you want to see it, which is great. That's why McCormick is so customizable. Now, at this point, you can make edits in here as well if you need to, whether you're changing labor, you're changing the price, or you're changing quantities. Now, you could have the system set to round up to the nearest tenth if you needed to, so you don't have any of these odd quantities. But this won't affect the main database. This is now a separate report for just this job specifically. So at this point, we could say, hey, we've looked through this report. I'm very happy how it looks. I'm going to go ahead and send this over to my fifth and final step, the bid summary. It's just telling me it's locking it to protect my work, which is perfect. We're going to hit OK on that. And then we can close out of the extension report. And that leads us to that fifth and final step. So let me just give you a quick overview of everything. First step, jobs, create the job, attach the plans. Second step, organize where you're going to put your takeoff. Third step, we went into the database. We went into Design Estimating Pro, and we did all our takeoff digitally. And then we just left that extension report. That was all the material, price of the material, the labor hours to install, and then we shot that over to our bid summary. So now what we're looking at is our top sheet. You could see what we sent over. We sent over the base bid, total material cost, labor hours to install. And now you could see there's a red box and there's a check mark under labor. And what that's indicating is there's something required, something we need to do. And what that is we need to apply our labor rates to the hours provided for this job. So working through these tabs down here at the bottom, we can jump over to labor, and you can see I have a total of 2,661 hours for this job. So this is something you would have saved from your template with your workers, your rates, and you could even set up a labor burden for your employees as well. But essentially from here, I'm going to build out my crew. So let's say I have a foreman on the job, I have a sub foreman, I have a journeyman, and I have an apprentice. So let's say I built my crew out, and now I'm going to go ahead and apply my rates to these hours. So I could do it by the hour amount, or I could do it by the percentage and kind of save me on the math. So we'll go ahead, we'll just say 50% goes to my foreman, 25% of the hours to my sub foreman, 15% to my journeyman, and then we'll give that remaining 10% of the hours to the apprentice. So now you can see I've applied 100% of these hours to these rates. So very simple. Now that's giving me an average labor rate. That's giving me amount per worker, burden dollars, burden percentage, right? So a lot of really good detailed information in here. However, you can do this as many ways as you want. I can come in here, I can add a line. Maybe I just do a flat rate. And then I do 100% of the hours at whatever rate, or I do it by name. So up to you. McCormick's very customizable. You can really tailor this to fit your needs. Now, I could actually take it a step further. I could set up different labor groups with different workers, different rates. We're in Phoenix, Arizona, so we have an inside crew, we have our outside crew, and then we have our local 480 union crew. So you could set up different crews, and then you could even set up a burden, FICA, workman's comp, prevailing wage, health insurance, all for your employees. So you can get very detailed, or you could do it very basic and maybe just do a flat rate. From there, we can move on to the next tab. Here we can enter in our quoted material for the job. So, I can say I had fixtures. You can select this. You can upload your suppliers, and then you could select the supplier, put the cost in. You can also attach a cost code if you like. And then I could just go ahead and handle it as a lump sum. Let's just say I have 6,000 in fixtures. Now, you can handle either lump sum pricing, or you could do breakout pricing in McCormick, which is great. So depending how you sent the report over from the extension, if you separated out your levels or systems, which I did, that's giving me the ability to now apply, let's say, quotes to just floor one, if it's like a generator. So now you could do breakout pricing due to how you sent over the report, or just handle it as a lump sum. Very simple. And I could always add lines on any of these tabs, and I can actually add more tabs down here at the bottom. Like I mentioned, you could really tailor this to fit your needs. Next tab over is subcontract, anything we're subbing out for the job. Let's just go ahead and put an example of 1200 for a core drill. DJE is direct job expense, permits and fees, fuel, cleanup, maybe parking, and you can go ahead and add those in here. These are just basically our punch-ins. Next tab over is equipment. If you're renting equipment or maybe you own the equipment, you just want to account for cost, you could do that here as well. So we'll just say for an example, I have a trailer that I'm renting. It's 150 bucks for the week. And you know what? I'm actually going to need it for 3 weeks. So we do provide a multiplier in there that'll give you a total of 450 for that trailer. So really nice. That'll be handy for you moving forward. And then from there, we do provide a bond table with your ranges and the percentages here. And then we have our tax tab, which is the last tab. And this will be automatically populated from your template with your local tax rate. But if you were doing, work out of state, then you can always go in here and change that tax rate. From there, we've gone through all our tabs. We've added any additional expenses to the job. We can go back to that top sheet. I can see here everything accounted for. I have that dollar amount attached to my labor, fixtures, core drill, permits and fees, trailer, that's all in there. So at this point, what I need to do is apply overhead and profit to the job. So we'll just go ahead as an example. We'll say 10% overhead, and it's asking me to apply to all the rows, sure. And then from here, I'm going to go ahead and say 11% profit and do the same thing. Now, I could go in here and make adjustments. Maybe I don't want overhead on my labor. Maybe I want to account for some additional profit into my quota material, but I'd actually take less profit on my labor. So you can make those adjustments if you need to. And then on the right, you have everything spelled out for you: raw cost, tax, raw cost with tax, overhead dollars, profit dollars, total return percentage. And now we've made it to that final sell price. So at this point, we've gone through the 1 through 5 step process, and we now just completed our first job in McCormick. So it is that simple. It's the left to right flow to the system. So if you keep that flow, you will get your hands around it very quickly. And then from there, you can bring it right into the proposal sheet, merge over all your job information, and then once awarded the job, you can come into your foundation export. And from here, you can, have your job selected. You can bring over the base bid for your material list from the bid summary, and then you could even bring over your budget export. And then all you would do is just add to queue and then go ahead and hit transfer. So it's pushing all that information into foundation. And then it's been completed. So now you would open up foundation, and then there's a button that is import from McCormick. And that's how simple it is. So I want to thank everybody for attending today. I'd say that's a good solid overview of the system. Our typical demonstrations are an hour to 2 hours. There's a lot more in here that we can go over, but I just wanted to show you and highlight some points of our automated features and how easy the 1 through 5 step process is. I want to thank everybody for attending. If you do have any questions, you can leave them down in the chat box, and I will get to as many as I can. Thank you.